to endure the pain of the cross, and that's what I use to help me get through. No matter what they throw at me, they can't touch my soul. I figure they can't take my salvation away, so I bring it on because they can't, In fact, sometimes I get to the point where, like, they're doing me a favor if I can go home sooner to my God then, but I don't want to leave my family, but that's just kind of my mentality now that, they can't, what does it matter what they can do to your body, that they can't touch your soul, and neither can Satan. So, and that's got to drive them crazy.
It does. That's why they try to change it.
Right.
Yeah, they try to change it, but I know that, I think you sent me an email, and in the email you wrote that you think he's getting more fierce now because his time is short. He knows it's short, and he's getting more fierce in his campaign.
Right, because I believe, he knows the Bible backwards and forwards as well, and he knows it's true, but of course, he hates God, and he's going to twist everything as much as he can, and he's good at telling half-truths. He never tells, the total truth. I don't think he's capable.
No.
But I think he definitely knows, he can see the signs, and he knows that time is getting, and he's, wants to get as many people on his side as possible. And what really amazes me is, if you read in Revelation about after the 1,000-year millennial period where Christ is on the earth with his saints, at the end where they have Armageddon, which is the final battle between Satan and his people, the fact that he actually thinks, that he actually has the audacity to go up against God when he knows, I don't know if he actually thinks he can win, or, he's got to be insane to think that he could defeat God, but he's, the fact that he'd even try that again is just amazing to me, but the fact that these people, too, think that they're going to win, obviously. They must think with all the power they have, they think they're invincible. And they obviously don't believe in a God that's going to call them to judgment. So,
Oh, no, I hear my perpetrators, I think they believe that they're going to go over to Europe and the Antichrist is going to acknowledge them. And if this country is destroyed with all these earthquakes we've been having, all these weird tornadoes and all these other things that have been happening, if this country gets flattened from end to end, do you think the Antichrist is going to come over here and spare these people? He's not going to care if they die.
Right.
He's going to let the earth swallow them up, and he's going to laugh at the same time.
Exactly.
You know what he's going to say? Ha ha, you fell for it.
Right. Exactly.
You fell for it. You said, I promised you the world. You'll never get the world from me.
Exactly.
I'm so stunned that somebody would believe these false promises that he makes. So I don't have high hopes for my perpetrators rising to great status when he appears as they do.
Right.
So it's just an ongoing mess, in my opinion, because what are they gaining from this? This false promise?
Right. See, I don't understand how people can live for whatever they're getting. I know a lot of them get, free stuff or money or drugs or whatever they give to them, to bribe them to participate, or the sense of power over others. But I'm like, is it really worth it in light of eternity? Is it worth it to throw away your eternity over this? It just amazes me.
Well, if they're already miserable and miserable enough to do this, just imagine how miserable they're going to be when they cross over to the other side. They're never going to get a life that they want on this earth. If he wanted Antichrist and devil wanted these people to have good lives, they would have had them. They wouldn't be standing around stalking and raping and murdering and doing everything else that they're doing around the world.
Exactly.
They don't have a good life. What is a good life about doing this? I can't even imagine how somebody would think about doing this.
I know there are people that they do recruit psychopathic people who have no conscience, and they actually enjoy the sadistic. They like the more sadistic ones that get pleasure out of it. So those are the only ones I can think that would really enjoy. But they also, I heard that they like the feeling of belonging. It's like a cult mentality. There you go, cults again, where, they belong to a group of people that have the same common goal. They're being patriotic for their country, whatever lies they tell them. It's just, I don't know. It's just like, it's kind of like we're back in junior high and, with the different cliques, and, it just seems like that mentality.
Very childish mentality.
Yes.
I don't even know if I could have thought of this in high school.
Oh, no,
very childish.
Right.
I know, like I mentioned my perpetrator, Julie, earlier, and from my dealings with her and the voices I hear at night, I'm going to say that she was probably diagnosed with narcissism at some point, because I know this woman cannot read, and I know she's on aircraft, and she is really thinks that this is going to work out for her, because I hear her every night with the voices, and she says how she's going to get a rich man when the New World Order comes in, and she's going to get a new face, and she's finally going to be beautiful, and I'm going to be the one. God. Girls like me are going to suffer. Model citizens like me will suffer.
Wow.
So I think they appeal to people who have narcissistic disorders and psychopathic tendencies and sociopathic tendencies, because those people, they like the idea that they're going to be number one.
Right.
Even if they're not, it's in their head. They seem to not be able to rationalize that this isn't going to happen.
Exactly.
Whether I die or not, their life is not going to get better.
And they also live for the moment, too. They don't care about what happens, or they want the momentary pleasure, whatever it takes to get that thrill. They're always looking for the next thrill. That's why these people escalate their deeds, because they're looking for, new reactions and new, they're just always looking for something and trying to think up more twisted schemes and, to see how far they can go, basically.
Yeah, I think they get a big charge out of it. But I'm going to bet if you went over there and you zapped them a couple times, they'd be on their hands and knees crying and begging for your mercy.
Probably.
But here they're zapping, and I know electronically, I know people who've actually been sexually assaulted electronically, painfully, and I've been a victim of that as well, where they zap your sexual organs.
Wow.
And your breasts and other areas to the point of pain. And I've had someone come forward who's a friend of mine in a TI here in Chicago, and she has been anally, electronically sexually assaulted repeatedly. So these people, they do very horrific things, and it's very satanic, to me, very, very evil.
Yes, wow.
And they get a kick out of that? Well, I mean, what went wrong with your life that you would get a kick out of that?
Exactly. Well, look at just look at the media, what kind of movies they're putting out there about, they call it torture porn, like Saw movies, and where they're torturing, dismembering people, and people find this entertaining, and now with the latest movie that, pay, like this guy, people go online to watch him kill other people, and it says killwithme.com, or, there's really demented movies that are coming out. You gotta wonder, Hollywood's, everybody seems to be in, and they're trying to get people, those minds focused or brainwashed or something.
To a more violent nature to turn over, I think, to cross over to his path.
Right. I think they want to desensitize people, too, like all these violent video games and like Grand Theft Auto, where that blows my mind that they have a game where you can, rape and kill and for fun in a game. That's just, and there's 12 and 13-year-old boys that are, playing these games. It's just...
Sure, they're going to try to make a kill out of them.
Right.
Exactly. Tell me a little more about this porn, because I'm not familiar with this porno thing that you were talking about. I know my rape was videotaped, but I didn't know that there was this violent, of course, some porn has been violent, but I'm not familiar with this new thing you're talking about.
Well, they just refer to it as torture porn because it's so graphic. Like when I've seen, I made the mistake of seeing one of the Hostel movies a few years ago where they, a business where they torture people. You could pay, like the elite would pay and do bids on victims, and it was just really sick. And just seeing, this is stuff that I couldn't, I no longer have anything to do with stuff like that, but, in my younger days, I was attracted to that stuff for some reason, but, it's disgusting. Like, they would never show this kind of stuff back in, in the early days, or like 50s or 60s, or, I think things started turning in the 60s when they started, Hollywood started changing, and they started showing, like, movies like The Exorcist and stuff like that.
And the sexual revolution.
Right, yes. Exactly.
Burn the bra type of things brought in, for sexual undertones that we probably didn't need, Liberation is good in some ways, but not in others.
Right.
And this torture porn or whatever, that sounds pretty awful. Do you have a website we can look at or anything, or do you know where we can look at it? I can check it out.
No, I just heard that term. I don't think it has to do with pornography. They just call it, it's just like people that get off on watching other people being tortured. Like this is, it just boggles my mind that, I'm like, what is going to be next? Like the Roman Colosseums we're going to have, where they execute people for entertainment on your TV set and people are watching this, for fun. That seems to be where we're headed with entertainment, with the reality shows and everything. And, it's just really, I don't know.
Yeah, I know that a couple of my interviewees had mentioned sleeping sex, and it's where they use this radio frequency and other drugs to go into people's homes at night and have sex with them while they sleep, and you cannot resist because you're drugged, and you're taken out of your bed, you can't fight, and sometimes you go along with it, you're placed back in your bed, and you're videotaped, and you're put on a website somewhere for viewing and for money, and you're sold. You could be sold again. A bunch of guys can come in